So welcome everyone. My name is Hila and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at BLEND Localization. We promised a speedy webinar, 30 minutes, where we are going to hear from Liraz all the secrets and best practices for SEO and localization, or multilingual SEO, multilingual localization and SEO. And I'm very excited to have you all here with us. You'll get the recording after this webinar. Feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. I hope it's working for you. Without wasting more time, I would like to just tell you 2 words about BLEND. BLEND is a localization platform. We work with enterprise clients. We also provide a self-service platform for quick and small projects. And we have voice services, voice recording, voice localization, video localization. Feel free to check out our website. It's getblend.com. And I'm happy to introduce you to Liraz, or Liraz to you. Liraz is an SEO expert, a dear friend with 14 years of experience in SEO and marketing. And I'm very, very excited to have her here with us.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I'm very happy to be here today. BLEND is one of the best, let's say, localization leaders that are really trying to educate the industry about localization and how to do it right. So it's my honor to be here today. As I told you, it's my first webinar for 2023, so it's a great start. Okay, so the purpose of this webinar is just to have a speedy webinar. We're all busy people. We don't have time to listen to 60 minutes of webinars right now. When we are looking for practical insights, and this is the major thing, that a lot of takeaways that you can take from here. And of course, feel free, if you need any question, if you have any question in mind or any dilemma, feel free to stay after with us in this webinar. You can ask anything that you want. And also I'm on Twitter, so you can, of course, look me up and I can answer anything that you want gladly. So I've created another poll, and I've created a challenge that say, what are the most challenges that you have when it comes for international SEO? And the majority of people said that content localization is one of the issues they're facing on their day-to-day, which is making a lot of sense, right? Content in general takes a lot of efforts and resources from us. And when it comes for international SEO specifically, a lot of SEOs answer that hreflang, which is a technical implementation of international SEO and localization efforts, comes in place, and this is another challenge. So we do have some challenges around content, which is the content creation, localization process, and then again, and how to implement it correctly on the website. And we're going to talk about these topics today. The struggle is real. We're dealing with the same struggles every day, the same challenges. And I'm here to start a little bit conversation also with Hila and also with you guys about how to do it right, what can go wrong, do's and don'ts, and very practical webinar. So the goal of SEO is to generate organic traffic, right? But we do want to create a relevant organic traffic because we want to get the conversions. We don't want to just get some traffic to the website. And international SEO helps your audience feels at home. They just want to go into your website and not get some, weird kind of a feeling that, what are you writing about? And that makes something that I want to go away from this website. I don't want to stay here. And that's something that can really boost my conversions while I'm doing it right for my users. So let's define the big thing. We're talking about international SEO. The goal of international SEO is to optimize your website so that search engines can easily identify the countries you want to target and the languages you use for business. For example, if you have let's say you have an English website and you're seeing the screenshots in Google Search Console and also in analytics, you're seeing tons of countries that comes into your let's say your website, and you are not serving any other language or any kind of let's say even in terms of imagery, videos, any kind of mentioning to another audience. So this is something like a completely missed opportunity for you. You're missing out Canadian French people, you're missing out Filipinian, you're missing out UK, you're missing Brazil, Netherlands, you're missing tons of new audiences that you can reach them easily with localization. So these snapshots can be taken from Analytics, GA4 now. You can take it from Google Search Console. If you don't have it, please install that. It's totally free, these tools. And that's something that it's like totally basic just to understand where your audience are coming from. But in order to understand, like to tell Google, hey guys, like I have a multilingual site, or I want to make sure that Google is picking up the right content for the right country, I need to give them a hint. What kind of a hint? Let's start with the most obvious, like content. So what languages is my content written? Is it American English, British English? Is it French? We don't know. Google needs to know what kind of a language using a code inside your actual content. So it's a completely different spelling, right? Look at that. And this is just difference between UK and US. I have a funny story. I just got back from London. I was sitting there in the restaurant, and the waitress came to me, and I was telling her, yeah, what kind of a beverage do you have? And she was like looking at me. What? Like she didn't understand anything that I said. And I was like, oh, drinks. Sorry, what kind of a drinks do you have? And it's like, imagine that. This is just simple explanation about UK and US differences that, another population that simply do not understand things that you're writing with US content. And sometimes you see, because you have an English website and you're using multiple writers, and some of the writers are writing US language, and some of them using AU language, and some of them using UK. You got to keep consistency here. Another example from Adidas site. So you will see, for example, in Adidas, they have the US site, so men's soccer cleats. And in the UK site, the same category, men's football boots. It's a completely different allocation of content. This is very, very important for us. So we're not looking to translate word for word. We're looking to talk about the meaning of what your audience is looking for, what actual slang they use, what actual terms they use. And you got to have like a local expert to just understand the language, the slang, the cultural sensitivity sometimes in that aspect. And this is very, very, very important. Some of the things that I really love, I'm so sorry, but these things are like making me funny all the time, making me laugh all the time. So for instance, look at that, how translation can go wrong in the process. In Tokyo, you have that in the hotel. Guests are requested not to smoke or do other disgusting behaviors in bed. Or for example, Switzerland, our wines leave you nothing to hope for. If you're doing these kind of mistakes and you're just translating word for word, that's it, you're gone. It's basically some kind of, let's say, emotional reaction that users will always look at it not in a good way. They make a laugh at it. Now there's like TikTok available. They would just picture it, and your brand is basically a joke now.
Right.
This is why
I think, Liraz, aside of misunderstanding the message, it also hurts the reputation of the brand.
Totally.
Using these machine translation techniques or not human translation can really lose the meaning in translation, and many things can, it can impact everything. So yeah, it's very funny.
It's very funny. It's very hurtful to business owners, but there's like, I'm tracking this kind of a hashtag. There's translation gone wrong in TikTok. You should check it out. So, but basically we need to avoid these kind of mistakes because, that's your whole business here on stake. So yeah, this is the reaction, eventually when you see something like this, you're like, what? Imagine that is happening on your website, on your major copy pages, hero pages, things like that. It's there, and it's not a good reaction that you want to get. So let's talk about it a little bit, the differences between translation and localization. So we talked about word for word translation versus like transformation into socio culture of the audience, or translation is rigid versus adaptive localization, how it is time saving and cost effective translation for sure. But in terms of localization, it will be more reliable language for your audience. And of course, it's harder for your audience to be identified with a simple translation like literal translation. And then here with localization, you have limited rewrite, you need to avoid, we will talk about do's and don'ts, but you need to avoid doing some kind of a thing, let's say in advance, avoid using jokes or kind of a slang or things like that. And this is something that is very, very important when you're choosing.
If I may interrupt, I also see a question in the Q&A about ChatGPT. I just want to jump in. Translation or machine translation versus human translation and localization. The difference is really in the feeling that you can evoke or the emotions. And I think tone of voice, we internally did a test today with ChatGPT. We let it draft an email for us. And the tone of voice, you cannot control it, okay? This is a machine writing. And as much as the English is correct and is to the point, you cannot convey the same message tone that you want as a brand. So that's why a human writer, a human linguist, that's where it comes into play. So you can use ChatGPT, you can use Google Translate when you translate one word, maybe when you translate even a sentence, but make sure to have someone check that the meaning is being maintained, that the message is right, and obviously the tone of voice. And I hope it answers the question.
Yeah, and also ChatGPT is really cool in English, I gotta say. But when I tried using it for German, French, or any kind of thing, it's like it needs some work. It has some way to go. But then again, even in English, when you use it in English, which is like, let's say, really nice, sometimes it just like say a lot of things that doesn't make any sense or make a lot of sense, but they're not really true. So we do need some kind of an eye to go over proofreading it. It's still not there in terms of, it cannot really replace us yet. I'm so sorry about that. So let's go back to SEO. When you're having an English website and you want to localize your website, you need to create a proper keyword research. So it's not enough just to translate your keyword research in Google Translate and then to check it out on SEMrush or any other tool. For volume, you just need to localize it with a local expert. Sometimes local expert is not enough. You got to have the person from the business, from the actual company to understand the slang, the business, let's say, how the people from the business are talking about your product. So what I like to do is I'm taking my list that was generating with a local expert to the salespeople, which are local, and I'm getting them another eye on this list because it's very important to connect the SEO with the business goals eventually. And then you need some other decisions to make. Does it make sense now to use your English product names, or do you need other product names because it's different locales? Or any kind of suggestions? Maybe you need to change your brand name in the specific geo. This is very important.
Like China. So, in China, you need a totally different name usually.
Exactly.
For many countries, the name can be not have the same meaning that you meant to bring. So I think it's very important to talk to local people and learn from them how they think when they think about your product. How would they search for it? What would come to their mind? Because as the example you showed with Adidas, it's totally different wording and it's English.
Exactly. And also this is well-defined like the URL structure after this, because if you need like a completely different name for let's say for your brand name, so it's a completely different site. Or if you need like a completely different product name, so that will reflect your URL structure, how that's defined. So everything needs to be an account, and the SEO people needs to strategize the move, strategize the localization process, and that is something that you should always doing with an SEO person. And then of course the competitive research, like how your competitors are doing that. Do they have multi-sites, multilingual sites? Are they having subdomains? Are they having URLs all in English, but then just subfolders with other, I don't know, languages in? That's something that you need to understand. And also how they're maintaining post-launch, how they're maintaining their content afterwards. That's a very, very important
Liraz, also local competitors, like those who are from the target country that you're entering. So they speak the language, they are originally from there. So see how they speak, how do they call the products if you have competitors. So that's an advantage. You can see how what words, what terminology they use.
And also what type of content they produce. So this is very important. Yeah, for sure. And we need to find your audience, like what's going on in this specific market. Is your market more Facebook, Twitter, Reddit? Where do you consume the content? Where do you consume the news? Where do you consume some business news? Best influencers that you can reach. Sometimes it's like micro influencers, or sometimes it's like mega influencers, your B2C. Google Trends, specifically in this specific markets, if there's a specific day or a holiday. And also we need to know the terms, specific business terms that they are using. Take a local expert guide. This is like a very, very important. I've seen it so many times that for this research, the same marketing person is doing the same market research, but this guy, like for this specific research, you got to have someone local that understands the market better than anyone else, to understand what's going on now in politics, in the actual economic system, in the actual let's say even the day-to-day routine, day-to-day pain points, what's going on there. It's very, very important to have that. And take the same one, like always, like to follow the same process with you. Let's go for do's and don'ts. When I'm talking do's and don'ts, so we have several things. We always want to create quality content, right? Because people always saying create quality content, but when we're translating or localization process in stake now, like bad content won't be good, like translated in a good way, right? So you got to have quality content. And also we want to have, be aware of cultural sensitivity. For example, I don't want to have to talk about something that other culture will say, oh my God, why are you talking about that? Like, this is too much for me. I don't know, or work with the same localization team or agency. You've got to have like consistency, the same tone of voice, the same also translation memory in place, but this is the same thing, you know. It's like you want to have the same consistency with everyone. You don't want to have like differences. Create a glossary, terms that you don't want to be translated. For instance, you have slang, or you have slang of business slang, or you have terminology or a product name that you don't want to be translated, or your brand name that you don't want to be translated. And this all comes to translation memory. I think, Hila, you can a little bit explain about it in depth, but this can make like consistency and make it a little bit more scalable as well when you're doing localization.
All right, you said it right.
Perfect. So we don't want to use like local jokes or any kind of nostalgia that no one else would understand. Slang, you can write freely in copy, in your major copy, but with product description or anything like that, or specific blogs or anything like that, we want to be avoiding this. And we also want to avoid using automatic translation, AI translation, without anyone proofing it. And we don't want to assume that your X is good for any kind of locale. This is very, very important. That do you have like an English site? Don't assume that the same people in every locale will understand the color of the buttons and the way and the funnel. Be flexible with other changes that you have to make for specific localization, for specific geos, let's say. Let's talk about domain extension. I think that's something very important when you're making a decision to localize your website. There's always a decision. Can we have it with a subdomain? Do we want to make it with subfolders? Do we want to make like geo redirection? So site structure. How do I structure it? Subfolders will give me maintain one website as a whole, all the link juice, everything kept inside in one website. The same link building strategy, the same on-page strategy, basically gives me a lot more advantage in terms of SEO. And I'm dealing with one website, which is easy to maintain. If I'm using subdomains, so basically Google is treating it as a separate site for everything. So I will need to create and maintain like several properties, and I will need to create an off-page strategy for each. And that's a lot of maintenance. Or should I use like a new site per geo? That's something that if you have, let's say, competitors that are doing that, and they're very, very local, using CCTLDs like DN, let's say .de, .fr, things like that. So this is something that you do need to, let's say, to take into account, but it's a lot more work, double content, double the link building strategy, double anything. Dev, of course, maintenance, you name it. So it's another site for you to handle, and it's like brand new site as well. So this is very, very important to take into consideration. All of these three. Sorry.
Sorry, no,
Yeah.
go ahead.
All these three is a good option, all good, but really depending on your resources. And I'll be honest, I will just take the subfolder into account and make it my favorite one because it's easier to maintain. Yeah,
right. There's no right or wrong, I guess. I see a question in the Q&A asking if it's better to localize the URL structure. I'm not sure I understand the question, but you are, so.
Yeah. So this is a question. Sometimes, sometimes you can do it. Of course, you can do it in terms of technology, but sometimes in matter of tracking, you want to keep the same structure. Sometimes it doesn't really matter today in terms of URL structure for specific geos. So they understand the English one. Sometimes the competitor is super with the localized URL structure. So really, I would say the word for SEO depends on the keyword. Let's say the keyword research that you're doing with the competitor research that you're doing. I would say that sometimes if you have the ability to track properly URLs and analytics or tracking whatever that you want to track with your URL structure, so it's better to have it like with one structure that you can follow it, but like, of course, the best one, if you haven't, you should like have a tracking ability. So to localize it with your language, sometimes, just a matter of how you want to maintain it. Again, no right or wrong, just check it with your competitors' research and see what is the best decision for your market specifically. Any other question?
No, you can go ahead. We'll answer all the questions at the end.
Cool. So hreflang, the implementation of hreflang is for someone that doesn't understand hreflang tags. So this is my way of telling Google, hey, that's the right region that I'm trying to, let's say, this is the about us of the German language, and this is the about us of the EN language. And this is like how they connected. So this is my way of saying to Google, this is like various, let's say, versions of the same page with different languages. So in the end of the day, if someone in Germany is looking to read about Blend, they will go directly without geo redirection. They will get the actual search results in DE and not EN, as it was like, I don't know, like 10 years ago or 5 years ago or something like that. And this is very important. It's like a piece of code with WordPress. You have like WPML, of course, like plugins that you can use that does it automatically for you. But it's something that you need to maintain and track and make sure that you audit it carefully. So there's a lot of things that you can do with it with hreflang. So in a nutshell, it's an HTML attribute used to specify the language and the geographical targeting of a web page. If you have multiple versions of the same page in a different language, you can use the hreflang tag to tell search engines like Google about this variation. This helps them serve the correct version to their users. So that's simple as that, but it gets really complicated when you want to scale and you need to maintain it afterwards. What can go wrong? So there's a lot of clients, a lot of business that say, hey, I will just geo-target, like everyone that's coming from Germany, I will just give them the DE site. And this is something that basically we need to avoid using that. I have a case study here. Yep, they've implemented a DE, let's say, they've implemented a redirection, and basically that's it. Like half of their traffic went down because Google was blocked in the end of the day, and also Google was confused. They didn't know what to do. They presented English, even though we had hreflang and everything, but still Google creates like some versions, and basically all the traffic went down. Once we removed that, it went back up, but it was like a disaster for the business to maintain. So it sounds easy, right? To localize a website.
So Liraz, just a question, without the redirect, a user comes to the website and he's choosing the language with the language select button, right?
Yeah, it's better to have like a pop-up, that creates like a good experience. Hey, this is like an English version. Do you want to go to your version? Like, we recognize you coming from, I don't know, this kind of a language. Go to this version if you want to, or stay in the English website or in the global website. And that's it. Like, it's a good experience. Don't force the user to do anything that they don't want to.
I hate it when they force me on the Hebrew website when I know that the English one is probably better. and it's hard to find it. You cannot get to it. Yeah, now I understand what you mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So also Google is telling that don't force the user, don't force Google. Just think about the user and don't assume it's like a good practice for them. And we want to define like a localization strategy. And I think the most important thing here is the process. And we want to make sure that the content is relevant in every aspect in terms of cultural and social realities, which means if I'm talking about the strategy, I want to define a priority. What do I start with? My products? I want to start with the homepage. I want to start with the blog. What do I start with? How do I test the water? How do I see if the process works for me? How is the project management works? Like who's managing this huge project? It's a huge project. Who's collecting all the glossary? Who's collecting everything that we want to talk about and translate? Who's doing that? There's someone has to do that in your company. We
have 2 minutes, so
yeah, it's like close
people
to the
can
end.
stay with us a bit longer, but let's see that we cover everything you want.
Yeah. It's like close to the end. Okay. So consistency, we talked about it. Of course, proofing it, quality assurance. You got to have the business people reading it, making sure also the translation agency, localization agency. It's the most important thing is to make sure that they are doing quality assurance, and of course the post-launch strategy. Okay, it's launched, we've done the localization, what's now? Because it's a work in progress, right? It's always like that. So wrap up the process. What terms are we using? How to find them? We're doing a market research, SEO research, combining with the strategy, how to approach my audience with the local experts, and then collaboration and re-optimization, maintenance, and ongoing. It's a continuous work, right?
Right.
Some lists to think about, which for me, it makes sense. You can just screenshot this slide. How to ensure that you're localizing words that are being used in every content and context. This is a glossary and list that you can create. How to
maybe we
localization.
say a word about the glossary, Liraz. The glossary is a list or a document that lists all the key terms, keywords, main terms and terminology that you use for your business and that you want to define its meaning. So everyone in every language will translate it in the same way. That's a glossary. Sometimes there are words that you do not want to translate. You want to keep them in English, or you want to write them in all caps all the time. The glossary helps translators and linguist experts to understand what are the keywords for your business and how to translate them. And it's very important to start with the glossary when you're doing localization. And it's even more important for SEO.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot. Liraz, this is I think things to think about are clear. You have any other slides? I think that's it, right?
That's just the takeaways. You can also screenshot this.
They'll get the recording, so.
But it's just like, the matter of research, do implementation right in terms of technical implementation right, use local experts, and of course, define the structure of your content, the structure of your website. And of course, think about localization, create and not, translation, word for word and things like that. And that's it. We're here for you for anything that you want to have.
Right. So maybe we just share this announcement, guys. We want to thank you for joining us. We will still stay here to answer your questions, so stay with us if you can. But we are happy to give you a coupon to try out the Blend platform for your translations and localization. It's a $50 coupon. There is a coupon code. You'll get it by email from us. Go to our wizard or self-service wizard. You can order a project, enter the code in the checkout, and you get this discount for any order. I do want to refer to some of the questions in the Q&A, Liraz, if people are patient enough to stay with us. So there is a question about a single website has different subdirectories, which is targeting different countries, like the one for US and one for UK, and the main website, which is for global one. Then how will we use hreflang tags, and where to use X default tag when it comes to international SEO?
Okay, so X default is basically the global site is the X default, right? It's like the ones that are getting the tons of traffic. The hreflang tags, like the same as I said, maybe I'm not understanding it correctly, but if you have an about us page, which is in UK, you have the About Us page in the US, you have the About Us page in the global site. So all of them should be connected to the main global site, and to just announce Google, hey, this is like separate versions.
There is a question about the importance of the X default.
Yeah, it's like a common thing. It's just like, let's say X default is something that basic that you have to get in order to create like an actual international, let's say hreflang, like a proper setup. If you're using WordPress, the actual WPML does it for you. You don't need to invent it. And also there is a lot of documentation on Google's sites just to how to do it properly. Maybe I can just tweet it afterwards or send it to you afterwards in the recap email. But it's like pretty straightforward. You can just give it to the X default is basically a return tag, and just give it to the dev and they implemented it. But yeah, it's super important to make it proper. And also I would use like SEMrush or any other tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush, just to make sure that you're doing the right implementation afterwards.
Right, there is a question about another one with the, like, what do I do if Google is serving the wrong version to the user? If it comes from Australia, searching for something and he's seeing the UK domain and the hreflang is implemented.
So there probably some mismatch in the
Technical issue.
Yeah, there gotta be something like that, or there is a problem with the structure or hierarchy of the website. We need to take a look closer, but sometimes it's not just about, don't think about, hreflang is set and forget. It's something that you need to see that it's like bringing the right results for you. You need to maintain it. You need to make sure it's working for you. So it's probably like a mismatch that's not working.
Okay, when a single website has a different subfolders, which is targeting different countries, I think we answered it. Any tips for organic SEO optimization for B2B website for Canada and the US to get more leads? This is a very big, wide question.
I think that's
if I may answer this one, I would say focus your content strategy on valuable content, valuable tips. Think about your persona, your target audience. What will they look for? How you can rank high on Google for their questions. Maybe create some videos so you rank up high in the video carousel.
I think also you can create like tools, it's like calculator, tools, generators.
Like the calendar we just created for localization managers.
Exactly, like free tools or free calculators or things like that you can use in order to also populate the organic search, because people are looking for this kind of a thing. And also to get the leads going on, because it's like gated, or it's like, to get the actual results, people are getting the actual, you need to get the email from them.
I think we answered most of the questions.
Perfect.
And we also are almost on time, like 5 minutes. Liraz, I'd like to really thank you for joining us. All of you that didn't get answers, feel free to email us. You have the email of Liraz here. You can contact Blend with your questions. We'll be happy to answer you. We hope you found it interesting and helpful. I learned some new things too. So thank you, Liraz, for your insights and for your tips.
Thank you
for joining us.
Yes, thank you. It was my pleasure.
And thank you all for your time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.